Hello out there. This video is going to be about the TV7 and calibration procedure. So we'll be following this. It's not that difficult to do it the way that the military used to. And I'll be going through Chapter 3. I'll be doing some of the tests in this video. I'll give you some notes on some of the other tests. I'll have another video for doing the simulated tube test, which is Chapter 3, Paragraph 26. So that'll be in the next video. So the TV7, it's a real good tester. It was made in the probably 50s and 60s. So it has pretty good tests. It has a short test. It has a gas test. The gas test is not quite as good as some of the later tube testers. Of course, you know, they benefited from all the 50 and 60 million television sets that were out there, and the grid emission and gas became an issue, so they came up with a better test. But I'm kind of digressing here a bit. So let's start with this guy. So that's the one we're going to be following. And got to be careful with all the high voltages that are on it, and I'll just read this part here. Dangerous voltages exist in this equipment. Be careful when working on the 330 and 154 volt AC power supply circuits and on the 115 volt AC line connections. And on the terminal board, serious injury or death may result from contact with these. Don't take chances. So for what I'm going to do right now, we're going to do everything without opening it up, just to check things. And the only place we've got live voltages here is on this adapter. So you've got to remember that. So we'll get over to Chapter 3, which talks about test adjustments and calibration procedure. So this document and many others can be found on the BAMA Manual's website under the military heading for these TV7s and under the various tube tester manufacturers for the other ones. So right here we've got Chapter 3, and then we've got the various paragraphs. And so one thing you want to read is this guy here, 21. And it says turn on the equipment. You should let this thing warm up for 20 or 30 minutes or more. I don't know. That's what I'm going to be doing here. And you set line about right. So this first one, it says set the line and adjust. Set the selectors and bias and shunt to 0. So we'll do that. That one is 0. Set the controls to HS5 3460. So we'll do that. I think I did that. HS5 3460. Okay. And for this bias test right there, it says connect to pin 6 and 5 with a voltmeter. Set the bias control to 22. It should read 3 volts plus or minus 0.2. So we'll put this on DC. So I've got this guy hooked up over to here. We'll set this for 22 about. Let's see if I can get there. My eyeballs. Okay, so it's about right. Alright, so right here as you're looking at the voltmeter, it's saying 3 volts. And that's what the spec was, 3 volts plus or minus 0.2. So that one's done. So we can move on. And we'll go to, that was 22, we'll go to section 23, which is plate voltage and line adjust circuit. Alright, So with this one, it says we want a 375 k ohm resistor in parallel with a multimeter from pins 6 to 3. Depress push button 3, and you should get 150 volts plus or minus 3. So let's set that up. Oh, disconnect this. I've got a potentiometer over here that I've set up to 375. So let's verify that. 375, that's close enough, 374. And we set it back to DC. And it said we want to go to pin 6 and 3, which is cathode and plate. So we'll move this one over to 3, that one on 6. Okay. And then double check, don't need this anymore. At 22, HS5 3460. And you press 3, and over here it's saying 151, so let's double check. Looks like the price is a smidge high. Okay, let me go there, 150. Alright, so there you go. So that one is done. And let's see. Next we will do 24, which is right there, and it says screen grid voltage test. So once again, it's the same 375 k ohm resistor, this time between 6 and 4. Depress push button 3 and you get 130. So let's set that one up. Between 4 and 6. And yes, there you go. Alright, so you press that guy, and we should get around 130, showing 131. So this guy isn't completely warmed up or anything. Let's see. So there you go. 131. Okay. Oh yeah. Well, you know, there's plus or minus what? Plus or minus 3. So it's fine. No big deal. Okay. For the short circuit test, I'll do 1 or 2 of these. You want to set 100 k ohm. But let's first get this. This is important. Right here in the bottom of this thing, it says you should now set it to HS5 3468. So the 8 is important because that's for this suppressor. HS5 3468. Very important. Okay. And then if you turn the page, you see, and it's got this chart. And it says basically make the connections like here, pin 4 to 8, screen to suppressor, and all these should light up at these different positions. So we'll do the first one. Let me double verify it's 100 k ohm, and we'll do that. And yeah, so we were at 374 k ohm. Let's go the other way. There you go. That's close enough. Okay, so first one between 4 and 8. So put that one on 8. Put this one on 4. Okay, and then we move this control to the shorts test, and according to the chart, all 5 should light up. Okay, good, 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 good. And so that shows you how that works, and you keep doing that. And you get through all those and check it out. So that's good. And so then we get to the simulated tube function, which that'll be in another video because it's a little bit trickier to set up. But I can talk about it a little bit here. So this is the diagram for that test. I'm sure it's in view, and it is. So in this test, it says, well, simulated tube function. You set range to B, and you start out and adjust a variable transformer so you're getting around 50 volts, and then you press 3, and then you should read this scale. If the test meter does not indicate 40 divisions on B, you adjust R113 inside. But let's talk about what you have to do. Okay, so for this test, you have to have the test set on. So you have it on. You have it also on the HS53460. So you want that set up because back here for paragraphs 22 through 26, set it up to that with bias 0, shunt 0, you know, and so forth. So you have to have it like that. Let me get back to this picture, and you will need to set up a resistor, 10 k ohm, which you'll be putting 50 volts across here to here, and so you'll be getting like 5 milliamps current through there. But you need a variable transformer, which is what this is, an isolation transformer, and then you hook it up as such. And I'll be doing that in the next video and showing you how that works. So here's the next part of this calibration procedure. So it talks about shunt control. So in here it says perform this calibration if the shunt control 127 is out of adjustment or has been replaced. So you would set the shunt to 90. You would be checking the line adjust is correct. And then here it says connect two 12 k ohm resistors in parallel between pins 6 and 3. Okay, so you look up this resistor, and they don't tell you how many watts it is, but in other tube testers they will have you use like the BK707, they will have you use a 6 k ohm 10 watt resistor to do this. So that's what I would suggest you do. Get a 6 k ohm 10 watt resistor, and then go ahead and set it up and press button 3, and test meter pointer should indicate 0 divisions plus or minus 2. So that's how you do that one. So here, range C of the function switch. With this test, they say set the bias selectors as this, HS53481, and that's for 6L6. So a 6L6 tube will work for this. Another tube such as a 6V6 would also work. So what you're basically doing is when you're in range B, it says set function switch to range B, you set the bias high enough, so you start out high, so you will get, when you're testing that tube, you'll get 120 on this meter in range B. And when you're all done with that, and you get 120, you leave everything the same, you turn this to range C, and you press this guy, button 3 again, and it should line up at 60. 60 on the scale, plus or minus a half point. And like I said, you don't have to use a 6L6. If you got one handy, go ahead. It's better to use a pretty good sized tube like that because you want to use the bias in these higher ranges and not so much down here where they can vary a lot. So let's see what else is there on this thing. And it looks like that's about it for all these tests. So in the next video I'll go through that simulated tube and show you what's going on there. Alright, well, thanks for looking.